Have you ever had one of those days where you just feel off? Maybe your energy dips right after lunch, or you find yourself struggling to remember where you put your keys or why you even walked into a room. Maybe your skin looks a little duller than usual, or your body just feels heavier, slower. It's easy to chalk it up to age, and sure, that plays a role. But what if I told you that what's on your plate or in your cup could be quietly draining your strength, your focus, and even your youthful glow? I know. It sounds dramatic, but it's true. And today, we're talking about one of the sneakiest culprits of all, sugar. Now, before you think I'm about to ruin all the fun, let me say this. It's not about never enjoying a treat again. Life should still be joyful. But as we move through our 60s, 70s, and beyond, our bodies handle things differently than they used to. And sugar? Well, it's one of those things that can cause more trouble than we might expect. Let's start with your energy. You probably noticed how some foods give you a little boost, but then, bam, you crash. Have you ever had one of those days where you just feel off? Maybe your energy dips right after lunch, or you find yourself struggling to remember where you put your keys or why you even walked into a room. Maybe your skin looks a little duller than usual, or your body just feels heavier, slower. It's easy to chalk it up to age, and sure, that plays a role. But what if I told you that what's on your plate or in your cup could be quietly draining your strength, your focus, and even your youthful glow? I know, it sounds dramatic, but it's true. And today, we're talking about one of the sneakiest culprits of all, sugar. Now, before you think I'm about to ruin all the fun, let me say this. It's not about never enjoying a treat again. Life should still be joyful. But as we move through our 60s, 70s, and beyond, our bodies handle things differently than they used to. And sugar? Well, it's one of those things that can cause more trouble than we might expect. Let's start with your energy. You probably noticed how some foods give you a little boost, but then, bam, you crash. Research shows that too much sugar can interfere with memory and focus. It promotes inflammation in the brain, which may be linked to a greater risk of cognitive decline. That's right. Your sweet tooth might be aging your brain faster than time itself. Now, I'm not here to scare you, but I do want to share the truth, because nobody talks about this enough. The things we eat have power, and sugar, in excess, has the power to steal our sharpness, our spark, and our sense of clarity. And then there's the skin. Maybe you've noticed your skin doesn't bounce back the way it used to. It's a little thinner, maybe drier. That's normal with age, but sugar can make it worse. Here's how. When we eat sugar, it binds to proteins in our body in a process called glycation. This creates harmful compounds called AGEs, advanced glycation end products. Sounds like a science class, right? But the result is simple. These compounds break down collagen and elastin, the very things that keep your skin firm, smooth, and youthful. Think of AGEs like little wrecking balls for your skin. They cause it to lose elasticity, form wrinkles, and look dull over time. I once spoke with a woman named Darlene who told me, I used to think my night creams weren't working. Turns out, it was the cookies I kept eating before bed. She laughed when she said it, but she wasn't wrong. What's wild is that sugar doesn't just show up in cakes and candies. It hides in places we don't expect, like salad dressings, crackers, canned soups, even those little flavored oatmeals. That's why becoming a label reader is one of the most empowering things you can do. Not to obsess, just to stay aware. I'm not saying we have to live without all sweetness. Not at all. I still enjoy a bit of dark chocolate now and then. But when we start paying attention, when we choose real, whole foods over processed sugar bombs, we begin to feel lighter, clearer, and more alive. That fog lifts. The energy returns. The mirror starts to reflect a person who feels a little more like themselves again. It's not about being perfect. It's about being kind to ourselves, listening to what our body is telling us. If you've been feeling more tired than usual, or your mind just doesn't seem to fire the way it used to, consider taking a closer look at how much sugar is sneaking into your day. It's not just about adding years to your life. It's about adding life to your years. And that starts, quite simply, with what's on your plate. You know, one of the trickiest things about sugar is how it hides in plain sight. We all know that candy bars, soda, and donuts are packed with sugar. That part's obvious. But what about those healthy-looking yogurts with fruit at the bottom? Or the granola that says, heart healthy, right on the label? or even that bottle of iced green tea that promises antioxidants and energy. Here's the catch. Those foods often come with just as much sugar as a dessert, sometimes more. And when you're over 70, your body doesn't process sugar the way it used to. The pancreas doesn't produce insulin as efficiently. Your metabolism has slowed down. So even if your diet hasn't changed much over the years, sugar may now be having a much bigger impact on your energy, your brain, and your body than it did when you were 40. Let me share a story that stuck with me. A man named Harold, 78 years old, told me he was frustrated. He was eating what he thought was a light breakfast, cereal with milk and juice, and then hitting a wall by 10 a.m. His blood sugar was swinging like a pendulum. Once he replaced that with some oats, berries, and a boiled egg, he said it felt like someone flipped a switch in his brain. I didn't realize I was living in a fog, he told me. It was like I woke up again. And here's the thing. It's not just about how sugar affects the day-to-day. Over time, high sugar intake has been linked to serious issues like insulin resistance, type 2 diabetes, and even an increased risk of Alzheimer's. Some researchers even call Alzheimer's type 3 diabetes because of how sugar impacts the brain. Imagine that. Something as sweet as soda possibly leading to something as devastating as memory loss. But it's not all doom and gloom. Because once you become aware of the role sugar plays, you start noticing opportunities for change. You start spotting the patterns. Maybe you realize that every time you have dessert after dinner, you wake up feeling sluggish. Or maybe the afternoon iced coffee with syrup is what's messing with your energy before dinner. Once you connect those dots, you have power. You're no longer at the mercy of hidden ingredients or old habits. Now let's talk a bit more about sugar and how it makes us feel. Not just physically, but emotionally too. It's no secret that what we eat affects our mood. But sugar? It's especially sneaky here. At first, it gives you a high, a quick burst of feel-good chemicals in your brain. That's why it's so comforting. That's why we crave it when we're tired, stressed, or sad. But the problem is that high is short-lived. And what follows is often a crash that leaves you more anxious, irritable, or low in energy than before. Over time, these ups and downs can take a toll on your mental well-being. You might find yourself feeling more easily overwhelmed, less motivated, or just not like yourself, and never suspect that it might be related to the sugar in your diet. I once met a woman named Clara, and she said something I'll never forget. I thought I was losing my spark, she told me. I blamed age, but it turns out it was my evening bowl of ice cream. She had been using it to unwind after a long day, but it was messing with her sleep, her digestion, and her mood the next morning. Once she switched to a small bowl of fruit with cinnamon and a handful of almonds, her sleep improved, and she said she felt lighter in the heart every day. Just one small change. And speaking of sleep, sugar has a lot to do with that too. It may seem like no big deal to have a sweet snack before bed, but sugar can interfere with the quality of your rest. It causes blood sugar spikes and crashes during the night, which can wake you up, interrupt deep sleep, or leave you tossing and turning. Even if you sleep through the night, you might wake up feeling tired, groggy, or stiff. Sound familiar? It's all connected. Your skin, your brain, your energy, your sleep. Sugar weaves itself into each of those threads. But the good news is you can start gently unwinding it one mindful choice at a time. So what can you do? Start simple. If you enjoy sweet tea, try it unsweetened with a bit of lemon. If you like flavored yogurt, choose plain and add your own berries. Instead of sugary cereals, try old-fashioned oats or scrambled eggs with a few slices of avocado. These swaps aren't just better for your blood sugar. They nourish your body in ways that ripple out into every part of your life. When you choose foods that don't rob your body of energy or speed up aging, you feel the difference. Your skin looks clearer. Your mind feels sharper. And those little aches and dips in energy start to fade. We all deserve to feel good. To feel clear, steady, and alive in our own bodies at every age. And cutting back on sugar, especially the kind that hides in everyday foods, is one of the kindest gifts we can give ourselves. If you made it this far, I want to pause for a second and say thank you. Because awareness is where change begins. And taking this time to learn, to reflect, to understand what your body is going through, It's a powerful act of self-care. You're not just watching a video. You're investing in your health, your vitality, and your future. So let's talk about one more place where sugar shows up, the joints. You may have noticed that your knees are a little stiffer, your hands a little itchier, especially in the mornings. While joint pain can come from many things, arthritis, past injuries, wear and tear, what we eat can either calm that pain or make it worse. Sugar, especially in large amounts, feeds inflammation in the body. That inflammation settles in the joints and tissues, making movement feel more difficult. Think of it like pouring fuel on a fire that's already smoldering. You might not feel it right away after a sweet treat, but over time, the effect becomes clearer. Cutting back on added sugar often leads to noticeable improvements, less stiffness, more flexibility, even better balance. I remember a man named Tony. He was 81 and loved working in his garden, but his hands had been hurting so much he could barely grip a trowel. He thought it was just arthritis progressing. But when he reduced his sugar intake, especially those evening pastries he'd grown so fond of, he noticed a difference within weeks. "I still get a little sore," he said, "but I can work with my roses again." That smile on his face said it all. And that brings me to something else, your sense of independence. As we age, our health becomes more than just a number on a chart. It's about whether you can walk without pain, remember your appointments, enjoy your meals, and wake up with enough energy to greet the day. Every small improvement you make to your diet builds on that freedom, bit by bit. Sugar might give a quick pleasure, but it can quietly chip away at that freedom. And once you begin to experience how good it feels to have more steady energy, clearer thinking, and less discomfort, you won't want to go back. That's the beautiful thing about this stage of life. You've lived enough to know what matters. You know that health isn't about fitting into a dress or impressing anyone. It's about feeling good in your skin. It's about having the stamina to walk through the park, the focus to read your favorite book, the lightness in your step when you greet your grandchildren. And that starts not with restriction, but with care, with curiosity, with asking the question, is this food helping me feel like me? If it's not, it might be time to make a small shift. Swap the soda for water with fresh citrus. Choose a square of dark chocolate over a frosted donut. Take back your mornings with a breakfast that truly fuels you. You don't have to do it all at once. You just have to start. One of the most inspiring women I ever met was named Gloria. She was 86, full of laughter, and swore that cutting back on sugar gave her a second wind. "I thought I was slowing down because I was old," she told me, "but I was just running on fumes. Once I cleaned up my eating a bit, I felt like I added 10 more good years to my life." And if you had seen her dancing in the community center, you'd believe her. So what can we take away from all this? Sugar isn't evil, but it's a powerful force. And when we don't pay attention, it can sneak into our lives in ways that make us feel older than we really are. It affects our brain, stealing our focus and memory. It impacts our skin, speeding up the visible signs of aging. It drains our energy, hijacks our mood, disturbs our sleep, and inflames our joints. But the good news is, you're not stuck. You're not too late. And you don't need a complicated plan to turn things around. You just need a little awareness, a little kindness, and a little willingness to say, "I deserve better than this." And you do. You deserve to wake up feeling refreshed, to look in the mirror and see someone who looks vibrant and feels vibrant. You deserve meals that nourish you, not drain you. Days that are full of energy, not sugar crashes. So here's my question to you. What's one small change you can make today? Not tomorrow, not next week. Today. Maybe it's skipping that sweetened yogurt. Maybe it's reading a nutrition label for the first time in a while. Maybe it's simply taking a moment to ask, is this making me feel better or worse? Whatever it is, I hope you take that step, and I hope you feel proud for doing it. If any part of today's message resonated with you, if you've had your own experience with sugar, or if you're thinking of making a change, I'd love to hear about it. Scroll down in the comments and share your story. Your experience could be the encouragement someone else needs. And if you found this helpful, go ahead and tap that like button, share it with a friend who might need a little boost, and don't forget to subscribe. We've got so many more videos coming, filled with real talk, helpful tips, and the kind of encouragement that lifts you up from the inside out. Thank you for spending this time with me. Keep being curious, kind, and brave. And remember, you're not too old, too late, or too far gone to feel incredible again. Here's to your health, your joy, and your best days still ahead.